Hi, welcome to Del Rivers Music Collection number 7, I believe. It better be number 7. Lose track of these things lately, I tell you. A lot of people ask, where I get my information from, other than, through books and things like that. Well, there's a lot of places on YouTube, some on Facebook that I follow, and I just want to mention them real quick. Let's see if this will work. Yeah, alright. First show is Mean Mr. Mayo. You remember the Beatles, Mean Mr. Mustard? Well, he goes as Mean Mr. Mayo. His name is Joe Mayo, and he has a couple channels. One is for movies, and his channel here is for Beatles stuff, record store, live. He's got a record store that he does live stuff in, and a lot of other things. And among the other Beatle people, there's Beatle Brad, who always, talks a lot about a lot of things that are coming up with the Beatles, the fests and stuff like that. He collects a lot of toys and things, memorabilia, and he talks a lot about that. And then we got Matthew Street, third on the list. He's another Beatle fanatic, worse than me. He collects everything Beatles, and he talks about stuff from the 60s and stuff he grew up with. A lot of cool stuff from Matthew Street. Does a little bit of comedy too, like myself. And it's a great show. And the fourth one is Pop Goes the 60s. This guy, I swear to God, he knows everything about, the Byrds, the Beatles, you name it. Anything from the 60s or related to the 1960s. He has he does a little bit of a speech on, does a whole series of 3 parts on the Beach Boys and stuff like that. Another one that I follow is Andrew Dixon, another Beatle fan. He has a lot of some of the newer stuff that's out, that's related to the Beatles and things like that. Rick Beato, the next one on the list. Rick Beato is a Rochester resident. He lived here, I think he still lives here in Rochester as far as I know. Or he moved, from there recently. He does a lot of stuff on rock bands and about music in itself, like how to play certain things and stuff like that. The next one is Norman Masloff. Now, Norman Masloff is a California transplant. He lived in San Francisco for a while. I visited there myself for a while, and he knows everything about albums and CDs. He collects both, and he's a good collector. Sea of Tranquility, if you're more into heavy metal, hard rock, but he does Beatles too, and a lot of good music. He knows everything as well. He's a guy that knows everything about anything you need to know about heavy metal. It's turned me into a fan as much. And I got a couple more. I got John Heaton from England. He's got a channel. He does a lot of guests on that show. Does a lot of reviews of Beatles stuff. And the next one is another Britisher, I believe, Beatley Tone's Beatles channel. He has Beatles in the channel itself. Beatley Tone is a great guy. He's knows everything about, same thing, Beatles and solo Beatles. Good guy to look up. And last one is not a internet station, but it's a radio station. A whole lot of shaking on WRUR-FM. I used to work with Mike Murray, who's the main DJ there, when he was on WITR at RAT in Rochester. But he moved to WRUR and does a great show there. I think he's also on WITH in Ithaca. It's a good person to look up. Okay, I didn't have a lot prepared, but one thing I was going to mention is this one artist here. There was a band that Bob Janik from the Insiders joined for a long period of time, before he passed on, obviously. And the group was called the Dragonflies. Now, the Dragonflies were led by this man, who's put out a lot of solo CDs, Brian Lindsay. I think this is you can see that the monkey, the tango, and the boogaloo. It's Brian Lindsay. He's pretty cool. There's some more of the songs. If I can get used to the camera angle. I have a few more of his earlier CDs. I just didn't have them with me. He is a person that does a lot of like Springsteen style, a little bit of John Cougar Mellencamp, folk rock, rock and roll, mostly like almost like Black Crowes style rock and roll too. This is his latest one that I believe is his latest one, Revival by Brian Lindsay. It's a great CD. He has guests from Rochester bands on this one too. He has on the first song, Revival. He has guys from New Math, the instrumental backing band of New Math that plays on it. And there's some other people on here like Alan Whitney from Buffalo. He's a good musician that plays on here too. He wrote a couple songs with him. It's a good album to pick up. Is Revival by Brian Lindsay. And I'm going to look into see what else he's got coming up eventually. Okay. Well, I suggest you people out there look up those other places if you want to find more out about the Beatles. The only thing I can offer is a little bit of information about the Beatles and reviews. And doing that, I'm also into UFOs and NASA stuff, as everybody knows. So, on occasion I'll be, getting into other subjects, but anything that's related to the Beatles locally here in Rochester, New York, or outside of Rochester, or nearby, like New York City, I'll let you know information about. So, for today, we're at the 7-minute mark. It's good enough. And we'll see you soon for number 8.